I was camping with my husband and his family at a small, remote lake in New Mexico. There were about 10 people in our group and another group of 6 people in the next campsite. It was night time, and both groups were doing typical activities, smoking, having a few drinks, and telling stories, when we all heard what sounded like a little girl yelling out for help. Neither group had children with them, but we were all positive we were hearing a little girl and decided to search the area we heard the noises from together. There was a field behind our campsites, and we all saw a very tall white figure, standing maybe 100 feet away from us in the field, making the noises. We all agreed this thing looked maybe 6 feet tall, skinny, and white as can be. We made our way closer to investigate, but whatever it was that we saw started backing off as we got closer, and it disappeared into the trees. All night we continued to hear a little girl calling for help as we tried to sleep. This happened during a Boy Scout campout when I was 15. My friend, who was supposed to share the tent with me, pulled out from the trip at the last minute, so that meant I had to pitch the tent and sleep in it alone. The sun was going down, and after a long day of hiking we got back to camp to set up our tents. It was already dark at that point and I was still trying to set it up. It wasn't as easy doing it yourself. Someone came over and finally helped me, and then we ate dinner. After the cliché telling of scary stories around a campfire, we all went to sleep. I guess I was a little happy that I had my own tent at that point. Since I had more room, I fell asleep quickly, but woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of somebody stomping around my tent. I immediately assumed there was another scout going to take a leak or something. Now you may be thinking that all our tents were pitched right next to each other, but our scout masters actually had us pitch our tents far apart, so I was pretty far from my closest scout mate. The stomping around a tent seemed to just be going round in a circle. So at that point I was sure somebody was messing with me. I asked who it was, and in response to that, they stomped off into the woods. I almost found myself going out and following them, but I figured it wasn't worth it and just tried to fall back asleep. But after that it was hard to. Sure enough, the stomping came back and started circling the tent again. I was pissed off now, so I got up and unzipped the door to the tent. I was expecting to see another scout, but when I confronted the person making the noise, instead I saw a grown man, probably 6'5" in his mid-30s. My heart was racing and I couldn't even gather up the courage to scream. The man gave me a creepy smile and then brought his finger to his lips, signaling for me to be quiet. I did a quick 180 and sprinted to my scout master's tent screaming like a baby. He ran out before I even reached the tent, and I told him about the man I saw. He and the other scoutmaster ran over to my tent with one of the hunting rifles, but they didn't find a man. They did, however, pick up on the tracks the man left walking around the tent. We were all told to bring our tents closer together, like literally right on top of each other. The trip was cut short the next day and we all went home. I had never gone camping since, and I never will again. So me and a couple of my buddies went camping last summer alongside the Willamette River. We actually had a decent hike into the deep end of woods. We did some night fishing, listening to music, and basically drank to the point where everything was funny. Later in the night, I would guess we finally decided to hit the sack somewhere past 2 a.m. I shared a tent with one of my buddies, while the other two shared another tent. We heard them laughing about something. At first we laughed at the sound of their laughing, but it soon got annoying and we yelled for them to shut up. One of them responded, "It isn't us." I sat up startled with the response. I came to realize that it was a sound of only one person laughing, and it didn't sound like either one of my friends. Even in my drunk state, I realized how odd it was for somebody to be out this far in the woods so late at night. The laughing gradually got closer and louder to our campout. My friend shot up and looked at me with a worried look on his face. I heard my other friends scream over to us, but they were getting freaked out. As the laughing got even closer, I could make it out very clearly to be the laugh of a male, probably in his 30s or 40s. It sounded like he was as drunk as us, messing around with friends, but we only heard his laugh, nobody else. There was something indescribably creepy about his laugh too, as if it was missing something to it. You had to be there to understand what I mean. The laughing was now just at the edge of our campsite, but we couldn't hear any footsteps at all. Now, that may not seem like a big deal. It was impossible to move through that without making noise. And finally, all of a sudden, the laughing stops completely. We had no idea where whoever that was standing, as he hadn't made a single stepping sound. We sat there in silence looking at each other. My friend was clearly freaking out, but he was keeping it together the best he could. Finally, something broke the silence, the sound of something rubbing against the cottony fabric of the tent. We saw the outline of the hand through the moonlight pressing on the tent. We both screamed at the top of our lungs before getting out of the time. We ran as fast as we could through the woods, our other friends following us. After about 5 minutes of running, we somehow found our car. I actually puked from running so much before taking the wheel. I don't recommend drinking and driving, but I still believe we were just in the situation. By far, the most horrific experience of my life. No idea who or what the hell that was, or what they wanted.